Are you ready to unlock your full potential and maximize your productivity? Look no further than Productivity Smarts, the ultimate audio podcast hosted by renowned productivity expert Gerald J. Leonard. In every episode, Gerald shares captivating stories, invaluable tips, and cutting-edge strategies that will transform the way you approach productivity. Whether you're looking to reduce stress, overcome overwhelm, or simply get more done in less time, Productivity Smarts has got you covered. But that's not all. You'll also gain inspiration from real-life success stories of individuals who have achieved greatness through productivity. Plus, you'll learn the latest tools, techniques, and habits that will help you achieve a new level of happiness and fulfillment in your personal and professional life. So why wait? Join us every week as we delve into the exciting world of productivity and help you unleash your full potential. Get ready to take your productivity to the next level with Productivity Smarts. As a productivity expert and host of the Productivity Smarts podcast, Gerald J. Leonard has been a proud supporter of Kiva since 2011. Kiva is a non-profit organization that helps entrepreneurs in third world countries access the capital they need to start or grow their businesses. By making a small loan through Kiva, you can help these entrepreneurs achieve their dreams, support their families, and contribute to their local economies. And with a repayment rate of over 96%, your loan can be re-lent to another entrepreneur once it's repaid, creating a ripple effect of positive change. So if you're looking for a meaningful way to make a difference in the world, consider making a loan through Kiva. With loans as small as $25, anyone can be a micro-lender and help change lives. Visit kiva.org to learn more and start lending today.
Well, today I am speaking to Ann Mracek, and she is the author of the newly released book, Unpacking the Attic, a path to healing your inner child, written in real time as she emptied her parents' house and helped them transition to assisted living. Told with humor and empathetic insight, the vivid stories of her childhood were triggered by seeing the items brought out of the house for the last time. Ann is the founder of Mracek Studio in 1979, where she teaches piano and voice, music composition, and Ann has her bachelor's and master's degree in music theory and composition from the University of Kansas City. And as you can tell, she's a woman after my own heart with all of this music and things that are going on. Ann, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm just delighted to be here. Thank you so much. This is fun.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Ann, I always get started by asking my guests a couple of questions, and that is, what is your favorite style or genre of music?
Well, I'd have to say classical piano because I am a classically trained concert pianist.
Excellent.
So I have played everything from, the Bach to the Beethoven to the Mozart to the Dvorak, who, by the way, is my great-great-great uncle, Antonin Dvorak. Yep.
Wow.
And I am, first and foremost, in my mind, a composer of classical piano music.
Okay.
So I compose really literally almost daily. I practice the piano every day, and I'm a recording artist. And so I'm continually recording my own piano compositions.
That is excellent. Excellent. Now, what is your favorite song out of all the things you've done? What's that one song that you've listened to, whether you wrote it yourself or it's, another song that just really takes you to another place?
I'll give you two answers to that.
Okay.
One is one that I composed, and it's called Through Eternal Time, Our Song Plays. And I have just recently composed this. It is going to be, hopefully, the theme song to a movie.
Wow.
Perhaps of the same title. It's a novel that I'm currently writing. And the premise is there is a couple who find each other through multiple reincarnations, lifetime after lifetime, through the music.
Wow. That's pretty amazing.
Their souls remember that melody and they sing it, and it's a call and response, and they continue to find each other lifetime after lifetime.
Excellent. Excellent. So, Ann, obviously you've become very successful in the things that you're doing and all of the music that you've written, and now with the books that are coming out. And, I met you at an event where we talked about your book, and you shared with me about some of, the ideas of unpacking the attic and how it gets into productivity, right? And can help
It does. Yeah.
productive by unpacking the attic. First off, if you can answer this, what does it mean to unpack the attic, and how did you become so successful throughout your life?
Yes. I think our society does not value retrospection nearly enough. I think everyone's life has seasons where they're presented with unique opportunity to pause and reflect and to try to process and learn from that time spent in reflection. And one of those seasons for me came about very unexpectedly, actually. My parents announced that they were going to sell their home of 56 years and move into assisted living apartment in 2 weeks.
Wow.
That's how much notice I had. And they're like, we need you to empty the house for us so we can sell it, so we can do this. And I'm thinking, okay, I will do my best. Now, keep in mind, this is a 3-story, 6,000 square foot house
Wow.
with 56 years of accumulated, we don't throw anything out stuff.
Mm.
And it
Got a
didn't take
big
2 weeks. It took long enough to write a book. And what I found myself doing, I was there every single day, all day long, until I had to rush home to teach my private music students. I began to see the items literally from my childhood, old childhood toys, furniture, even clothes my mom had kept from my baby things,
Wow.
brought out of their attic for the last time, either to be donated or thrown away or repurposed and gifted to someone.
Right.
And I began to reflect on, naturally, the events that these items were associated with.
Right.
And one of the real triggering points for me, I hired a company that had college hunks come in and help move the big, heavy furniture. You've probably heard of them.
Yeah.
And they were wonderful. But one of these young, strapping fellas came up to me and went, Miss Ann? And I'm thinking, do I know you? He says, you taught me piano when I was 7. Well, he changed. I'm amazed he still recognized me, because I've changed
Right.
since he was 7. But I suddenly had this flash of total recall, seeing this little guy with his little upturned nose and his freckles in there trying to find the melody that we both knew was there somewhere.
Right.
And it suddenly triggered this very full sensory experience of recalling my own self as a child.
Hmm.
It's interesting. It was like a gift from the universe.
Right.
And as each item was brought out of the house, it triggered a cascade of memories associated with that item.
Wow.
Stories that I had forgotten, stories that I had deliberately suppressed, traumas.
Right.
It brought to surface the realization that there were unsolved problems and conflicts between family members that really need to be addressed
Right.
and needed to be confronted with a spirit of compassion and a willingness to forgive.
Right.
And it took me on a journey. And so I had hours and hours and hours of sitting on that old front porch swing. And I, first of all, grabbed a book to read, which was actually everything I ever need to know. I learned in kindergarten.
Okay.
That.
Yep.
Yeah. And I read the book and I thought, this is reflective. This is good. And I thought, I should be journaling my own thoughts as these different memories come up.
Right.
So I began writing Unpacking the Attic in the blank spaces on that book.
Oh, wow.
That was my paper. Mm-hmm. And so I began journaling. And I discovered that as I wrote these things down, I realized I had a lot of healing and I had a lot of forgiving that needed to happen. And I'm realizing, my father has had multiple strokes.
Mm.
My mother has a heart condition and is blind.
Right.
They're both going into nursing home. I'm running out of time with them
Right.
to love them and to resolve some of these issues and to do the forgiving that needs to happen.
Yeah. Wow.
And it was as if this last gift of opportunity was presented to me. And as I wrote literally in the margins
Yeah.
of this other book and then went to notebook after notebook of paper, I saw the value in the retrospection
Okay.
and in reaching out to the family members that you probably haven't talked to about these different issues and events.
Right.
We tend to, in our society, I think, want to avoid a conflict to the point that we don't resolve issues.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then they grow and they fester
Yeah.
and
They don't go away.
they don't go away. They remain as anchor blocks in our soul.
Yeah.
And they hold us back.
Yep.
And I realized that in order for me to move fully forward as a creator, which is how I make my living, I needed to be free of these emotional traumas and burdens, and I needed to forgive them.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes. And even the act of writing the book down became its own creative force.
Yeah.
It almost took on a life of its own.
Yeah, writing has a way of doing that. And
Yes.
especially, when we go through a lot of childhood traumas or just life in general,
Sure.
the amount of the information, everything that happens to us gets stored somewhere electronically in our bodies, right?
It does.
And
It truly does.
creates an energy, and it creates a dis-ease, which
A
creates
dis-ease of energy. Yes.
right, which then eventually becomes a disease. And by unpacking your attic, you're able to, free yourself, help others to free themselves, and
Yes.
really move forward through that. So let me ask you this before we get further into the book, because I really want to start getting into that. One of the questions I did ask was, and I can see the answer to it, but I want to hear from you.
Sure.
What has made you successful throughout your career? Obviously, you have a bachelor's and master's in music. You're a recording artist. You're a performing artist. You still practice every day after all these years of
I do.
what you do. What is that motivation, and where does that come from, and why?
I always ask myself with any new project, with any endeavor, how does this fit with my soul's purpose?
Hmm.
And if I find that I am excited and I'm passionate about doing whatever it is, about creating whatever it is,
Right.
then I know it's something I want to pursue.
Okay.
And I will pursue it till its fullest thread. I follow it as far as I can possibly follow it and keep saying yes to the universe and see where it goes.
Gotcha.
So I don't get up in the morning and have I have to do this and that list. Obviously, there are some things like that. Like we all have to balance our checkbook. No one wakes up and go, oh, goody, I get to balance my checkbook today. But, there's always some of those, right?
Right.
But when I wake up, I pop out of bed excited because I'm photographing today. I'm videotaping the ice formations on our waterfall in the backyard today because it was -3. And I know those ice formations are going to be there. And I'm going to use that video in my YouTube channel, My Best Friends Live in the Woods. And I know exactly what chapter it's going to fit into. Or I get up and say, oh my gosh, today's the day I record Storm on the Horizon, new piano composition.
Right.
And I'm thrilled and I'm excited. And it brings that joy of purpose. And so everything that I do, I try to make it an expression of my soul's joy. So, for example, this is kind of funny. All day yesterday, I baked gingerbread cookies.
Okay.
Now, how does that have to do with anything? Well, I'll tell you how. One of my other novels, which actually is on the 4th book now, it's a series, is called My Best Friends Live in the Woods.
Okay.
And rather than go to print with that initially, what I have done is I've created an ongoing YouTube series called My Best Friends Live in the Woods.
Right.
And I'm presenting each chapter as a narrated story, as a TV series. And I have what I call B-roll. And it's, for example, if I'm talking about a waterfall, I go out in nature and video a waterfall, and you see that as I'm talking, or I paint all the illustrations. So, like, I just painted a beautiful owl with little mice on his wing, and that's part of the story for
Okay.
chapter 37 coming up. But the cookies at the introduction to every chapter, when it says chapter number and the name of the chapter, I show a picture of a gingerbread cookie in the shape of one of the characters that is pivotal in that story, in that chapter.
So you have to bake all
Well, I make all the characters in gingerbread
the.
because the main character, Mother Skunk, bakes gingerbread cookies and she's famous for her gingerbread recipe. So, so that's just one little subtle caveat that I do at the beginning of each chapter is I have this gingerbread cookie. It's just subtly there in the background, but I had some specific ideas of things that I wanted to do for that. So I spent the entire day baking gingerbread.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I know you were telling me too about the your book, Unpacking the Attic, that you
Yes,
won some awards with it.
I have. And that's been absolutely thrilling for me. Actually, I can't even remember them all. I wrote them down. So I can tell you it has won the Literary Global Book Award
Okay.
for the best nonfiction book cover. That's kind of neat because I designed the book cover. So that was kind of another one of my little creative endeavors. So that was very gratifying. It won the American Writing Awards for Best Nonfiction Narrative.
Okay.
It won the Literary Titan Gold Book Award for Best Nonfiction Book of 2024.
Excellent.
The Pinnacle Book Achievement Award Gold Medal for the Best Memoir of 2024.
Wow.
And I just found out about 10 minutes before we logged on the Digital Book Today Award. So, yeah,
That's
pretty exciting for a book that just came out.
exactly. That's really, really cool. That's very, really cool. So let me
Yeah.
talk about this book, Unpacking. I love the title, Unpacking the Attic, because there's so many different metaphors you can use with that.
Yes. Right.
You use this concept of sorting through personal and metaphorical attics. How does the process of uncovering and dealing with hidden or forgotten aspect of ourselves impact our productivity on a daily basis?
I found that the traumas that I was suppressing were actually hurting me in my career. And I can give you a very specific example. I realized why I had stage fright.
Oh, wow.
It was the suppressed trauma that I dealt with in this whole process. When I was in third grade, my piano teacher at the time called me up 2 hours before she was supposed to accompany the Girl Scouts in an all school assembly, dumped off 8 pieces of music at my front door, and said I had to go substitute for her because she had something else she wanted to do.
Oh, my
Now, this music was decades ahead of my skill level in third grade. She had to have known that she was setting me up for a disastrous failure. She
Right.
had to have. But me being the child that wants to please, is compliant, showed up at that all school performance of the Girl Scouts, and I had tried to practice as much as I could. I could kind of play through them. And I started the first song, the introduction, and then the Girl Scout leader took off with the girls singing at a tempo about 6 times faster than I had played the introduction. I couldn't even turn the page that fast. My eyes glazed over and I burst into tears and I ran from the auditorium.
Hmm.
And I actually ran into the girls' locker room and hid and cried because I was so humiliated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
that'll burn into.
that was tough. That was tough. So in my little mind, I associated being on stage and performing with that emotion of humiliation and
Right.
anxiety,
Right. Now,
they
how did
feel
you overcome
prepared.
that?
Yeah. And even up to right before the book Unpacking the Attic was published, I was still dealing with that. Every time I would turn on the recording on the computer
Right.
and begin to record a score, I would have that moment of gut sick anxiety.
Yeah.
I would re-feel that every single time. And I finally forgave my piano teacher.
Hmm.
And in that forgiveness and in giving a bigger adult perspective to the memory and understanding that the third grade child did everything they were capable of to be
Right.
compliant and to try to help this other person, it really wasn't my fault.
Right.
And I really need to stop replaying that memory.
Yeah.
And I really need to forgive, which was ultimately the way I got over it. And now I'm excited to record and I can hit that record button and I don't get any of that grabbing in my gut like I used to get every single time I went, or even when I went on stage. I had a 25-year career as a professional belly dancer,
Oh,
of all
wow.
things. And every time before I'd go on stage, backstage, before the music would start, I would get that same clenching feeling
Yeah.
of terror. And it's gone. It's completely gone. And I will tell you that I think a lot of people have anxieties and nerves, what I call the monkey mind. Your body is telling you, oh, you can't do this, that chatter. You're not good
Yeah.
enough. What do they call that? Imposter syndrom?
Yeah. Imposter
A
syndrome
lot of
or,
times. Yeah.
or negative self-talk. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. All of that. Uh-huh. I think so much of that stems from childhood trauma.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I do in the book is I identify what I feel are the 5 traumas of childhood through stories. I'm very open and I'm very honest, and I share very, very honestly, really, the traumas in my childhood, because we can all then, even though the specifics are different for each person, we can all then relate to the overall experience, the general experience. We all feel rejection. We all feel abandonment. We all feel humiliation. We all feel times of injustice, and we all feel betrayed at points.
Exactly. Exactly. There's someone
Yeah.
that said that openness breeds openness, that when you are as a writer
Yes.
or as a speaker, you're sharing your openness or you're sharing your pain or you're sharing the challenges that you went through and how you work through them, whether
Exactly.
or non-elegantly, you're sharing how you worked through them and got on the other side.
Right.
Everyone begins to see themselves in that story. And,
Exactly.
that they don't hear your tragedy or childhood trauma, they experience their own. And then they have a roadmap. It's like you're able to give them a roadmap by sharing your story and telling them how you overcame it. You're giving them
Yes.
a roadmap of how they could potentially overcome their own.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I think forgiveness is a big part of that. And I think it's either forgiving the person who
Mhm.
transgressed against you or forgiving yourself
That's right.
for
Forgiving yourself.
allowing that to impact you that way and really embracing it and feeling it
Mhm.
and then releasing it.
Right. And so much of it, I think, is understanding that children believe they are the center of everything that happens to them. They are the causation. They're the center of the universe because they don't have any adult perspective or context for the situations in which they are placed. So, for example, I had a grandfather who I can honestly only remember 2 words he ever said to me, and they were sit down. We would go to his apartment to visit. He would point to that red velvet couch and sit down was all I heard as he and my parents went into his kitchen. As a toddler, I sat there for what I thought was forever. And I would hear laughter and conversation floating into the room. I would smell dinner cooking. I wasn't fed. I'm still sitting on the couch. After dinner, they would come back out into the living room and he would sit in his big overstuffed green chair and stare out the window and puff on his pipe till the room filled with cherrywood smoke. Oh, I have the pipe. I always have it sitting here by me. This is a reminder for me of of the grace of healing. I found Pop's pipe in
Wow.
the attic.
Wow.
This is one of the items that was brought out of the house, and I kept it.
And it
It
still
still
has,
smells of cherrywood smoke. And memories are very triggering
oh,
with smells.
oh yeah. Well,
Yeah,
anytime you want to remember something, whatever it is, include a smell, and an emotion, a visual. It's
yeah,
all of those things. That's
they're
why
connected.
these are big major events that happen trigger so many of us, and we know, we can say a date of a major event.
Mhm.
We know exactly where we were, what we were doing. It's like we were just there when that happened.
Exactly.
It's
And
because,
that's what happened when I found Pop's pipe. It transported me back to that suppressed memory. I had suppressed it. It was gone from my conscious.
yeah,
But now I'm reliving it, right?
right.
All I ever wanted to do as a toddler was sit on his lap.
Mm,
And it never happened. And I carried that rejection with me for decades. My baby self said, I am not worthy of being loved. I'm
wow,
a bad child.
right,
And I took that I am unworthy of being loved through high school, through college, through adulthood. Oh
right.
my goodness. I
And
mean, until like last year when I wrote Unpacking the Attic, because I didn't know where it was coming from.
right,
I had suppressed the source.
right, right,
So, my healing process, you put two and two together from your life's experiences, no matter where they come from, right?
right.
So, my husband and I had recently traveled to China. Now, stay with me. You'll see why that matters. And we were touring, I think it was Qian, where the Terracotta Warriors are.
Okay,
And we're touring the city. And there were streets of vendors that had tables laden down with stacks of papers. And they were pictures of like houses and cars and washers and dryers and all kinds of appliances. And I thought, what is this for children to play paper dolls with? I mean, I really didn't understand. I asked our tour guide about it. And he was like, oh, heavens, no. In our religion, we believe that if you buy an image of something, pray over it with intent, and burn it, the smoke will rise and gift the deceased relative that you're praying for with that item. So they were gifting their loved ones that had passed on with these images
right,
so that in the spirit world they could have these luxury items. Okay.
okay.
And apparently the vendors of Chad have made an entire industry out of it.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
they made a business out of that as well.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
So I was thinking on that and I was thinking about Pop and I realized I want to write Pop a letter. He's been gone for years, but it was time. And at first I just wanted to yell at him and demand an apology.
Right.
But I remembered my mom saying, Pop lost his luster for life when his wife, your grandmother, died.
Mm,
And I know she died very young of diabetes, very young. I only remember her holding me once. I was tiny. And I realized all of a sudden I could back up and separate my adult self from the experiential, emotional memory of the child
right.
and realize Pop was broken.
Yeah.
He was in deep grief in
Yeah.
a circumstance that I had no awareness of and couldn't possibly comprehend as a toddler. And so in the end, I wrote to him, you missed out. We both missed out on one of the best things life has to offer, and that's to laugh with your grandchild. And I'm sorry we both missed that, but I forgive you.
Wow.
And I put that letter in a green ceramic bowl representing Pop's green chair he used to always sit in, and I lit it. And as that smoke rose, I had a downpouring of goosebumps in spirit. And for the first time, I felt this overwhelming love and compassion for my grandpa. I had always resented him. I had always been clamoring for his approval that never came.
Right.
And it completely transformed me from the inside.
Wow.
And now when I think about Pop, I just want to give him a hug. If there was any way I could help him heal from that grief, I want to send my love and my support to him.
Yeah.
And it's transformative.
Yes.
It's transformative. Yeah.
It's interesting because you've actually hit on a couple of questions I was going to ask you about.
Okay, there you go.
Which is around the emotional energy and grief and those kinds of things. And so I appreciate that story because, again, we have traumas that we have that are hindering us, right? Sometimes those traumas are unconscious. We're not aware of them, but yet our bodies are aware of them and play at that level. And it's not until we are put in a situation, you bringing out all of the furniture and seeing all of that things in the attic that your family had that brought up all of these ideas and past traumas that you didn't even know that were existed anymore, but that were there. And I'm sure as folks are listening that they may be thinking, these are some past traumas I've gone through and things along that line. And I think it's worth the idea of journaling.
Yes, it is.
And also, being able to, forgive the other person, whether they're here or not, and also forgive yourself, right?
Yeah.
And then do that step of stepping back and taking yourself out of the picture. It's almost like an NLP concept of step out of yourself and looking down and seeing what's really going on and realizing that the other person couldn't give you what they didn't have themselves.
Right. Precisely.
And it's kind of saying hurting people hurt people. Well, he was hurting. So he didn't know anything except hurt. But, forgiving and loving people are more empathetic because they have gone through that. They've done that work, right?
Yes.
That process.
Right. And it is a process and it does take work. But when you come out, it's like, going to the gym.
Right.
Right?
You got to do it every day.
Excuse me. But when you get through it, you feel so good, right? And there is a growth and there's a releasing. And another analogy, everything I believe is energy.
Yeah.
When I was a child, when most of these stories were taking place, I was taught in science class in school that the atom had a solid core nucleus. And there were these little solid planets called neutrons and protons that orbited around it. And that was taught as fact, not as theory.
Right.
And now, today, we understand that 99.99999% of the atom is actually the energy of the cosmic field. And that it is constantly disappearing and reappearing in and out of that field in a wave. Okay. So what I have done with those old traumatic memories, I have changed their energy signature.
Yeah.
So they are no longer the negative solid atom of the unchanging negative that they were in my life.
Right.
I have changed their energy signature. And so now they are a compassionate outflowing of forgiveness for the people that were in those scenarios and for myself.
Exactly.
Which is empowering.
Yes, it really is. It really is. And that's why I wanted to talk to you when we met earlier. I knew you were a musician, but I also knew that you had a lot of science and, you've done a lot of writing on this. And, for me, productivity is not just about your to-do list and getting things done. It's all of these nuances, right? It's all of these nuances of how we think and at a conscious level and a non-conscious level, at a particle energy level, at a subatomic level, how all those things impact us and influence our environment, how we see things, and so on. And I want to ask you another question, because again, I'm looking down my list of questions. You've answered a few of them already. But one that you haven't answered that we haven't really talked about is many people struggle with mental and emotional clutter. because you
Yes.
mentioned that your parents didn't throw a lot of stuff away. So obviously,
Right.
when you have a house like that's big and people don't throw things away, you just end up with rooms of stuff, right?
Right. The joke is there's a box labeled string pieces too small to save.
Exactly.
That was my parents.
Wow. So, what strategies from your book can you help someone clear the clutter and enhance their productivity?
Yes. I think it's a matter of being able to emotionally let go. I think it comes from an underlying view of the universe within yourself. Are you coming from a place of abundance or lack?
Mm,
My parents both lived through the Great Depression, and they never emotionally or mentally got past that view of the world as a place of lack and competition.
right,
Therefore, anything they had, they arbitrarily felt like they needed to hang on to it,
right.
logically or illogically. It came from their emotional core belief system.
Yeah,
When you come from a place of loving abundance, it was very fun and energizing for me to give,
right.
for me to find a flow for all of these items to go to. I found a lady from Denmark who had immigrated here very recently and had two small young boys that I gave her my little table and the two chairs that I used to sit at and do my little coloring book projects and so forth.
Okay.
It was easy for me to give that away because I wanted her to have the joy and experience of her children sitting there and coloring and playing. And I think it's just a matter of knowing that I have within me
Hmm.
the ability to create and to draw from the energy of the universe whatever I need.
Right,
I don't have to hoard old things that really no longer serve a purpose to me, coming from a feeling of inadequacy or lack.
right,
I think hoarding comes from a worldview of being incapable of providing for yourself, not trusting the universe to provide for you and the people who are in your life currently, and a lack of trust in your own ability to generate your own abundance.
gotcha, gotcha. You also talk about the attic as a mindset, right? Unpacking.
Yes,
And again, you just hit on the concept of a fixed mindset or a growth mindset or abundant mindset.
abundance. Yes,
How does understanding and reframing the attic mindset concept we just talked about here,
yes,
how does really understanding that, how that could that help someone overcome procrastination and really stay focused on their goals, right?
yes, yes. I think you need to have your motivation come from a place of believing in the value of what it is that you're gifting to the world.
Right,
I have a true core belief that the music I compose nearly daily is actually being channeled from source, from the available loving source of the universe.
right,
And I feel that if that music is being sent through me, it's not supposed to stop here. Hence the word through. I'm the conduit. It has a destination. It's being sent through me so that it can gift others and
right,
flow out into the world and make a positive impact on others' lives.
right,
Right? So I'm not the stopping point. I'm
right,
just the door that's opening.
right. You're the pathway.
And I'm the path. Just like what did I title the book? A path to healing your inner child. Right?
Gotcha.
So I feel like knowing that that abundant love is available to all of us 24/7, if we open our hearts and we let it flow, know that it's going to flow to you, but through you.
Right.
And believe in the value of what you're sending out into the world because it was gifted to you to send.
Right. Well, it's really interesting. As you were just talking, this idea came to me, this concept came to me of the Dead Sea, right? Like, what's the difference between the Dead Sea and the rest of the seas? And it's the thing is that in the Dead Sea, water flows in, but it doesn't go anywhere else.
Doesn't go anywhere. Right.
Right. But then all of the other seas where water flows in, but also flows out, they are vibrant, they're alive, it's refreshing, it's clear, they're pretty blue. But the Dead Sea has all of this abundance coming into it, but it doesn't go out. And I think that's a great metaphor.
It is. It's excellent.
We're talking about with the attic mindset that, our mindset, our attics need to be clear, right? They need to be organized. They need to be for throughput, right? So that as we're bringing all of this knowledge in, we're also giving and we're, turning over and refreshing and refurbishing so that we can be a blessing to others and we can be used by source to, our God to really make a difference in this world and not just to hoard, if you will.
Right. And understand that it's the amount of flow is unlimited.
Right.
Okay. So if I give away everything I have today, there's more flowing in tomorrow. I mean, you have to believe and trust and understand that flow is continuous.
Yes. It's kind of like the Chinese that says I can't pour any more in if the cup is full. Right.
Right.
You have to constantly
exactly
receiving so that you have more room to receive more newer, fresher ideas and things like that. This is a great conversation.
Exactly.
Well, listen, I have one other question I want to ask you. And this is taking the concept of unpacking the attic and thinking about it from a leader's point of view or organizational standpoint.
Yes.
What insights from unpacking the attic can organizations or leaders apply to helping teams of, small teams or teams of people unpack their collective attics and foster a more productive work environment? Because, because you can create groupthink that can become, like the Dead Sea. We're going to bring it all in, but we're not going to share it. Or it can be like the Red Sea where it's just flowing through.
Right, exactly. And I think, again, that's so much of, two things. Each person needs to feel valued.
Right.
They need to feel heard.
Right.
And they need to feel that their contributions are moving with everyone else's toward a group goal.
Gotcha.
Okay. What tends to happen in a workplace, I've been in that situation, and interestingly, dancing in the Palace Show at Six Flags over Mid-America, an odd analogy, but that the workplace was very unhealthy and they tended to try to pit one actor against the other instead of trying to build a cohesive, working together, dynamic, interactive group on stage that had a positive energy that we would play off of each other.
Right.
They kept trying to make us competitors against one another. And just an analogy that came to mind, the old sitcom Friends, that was so successful, not because each individual cast member hoarded the spotlight for themselves.
Right.
No, it was successful because they played off each other and they appreciated and valued each other. And you could see that camaraderie and that genuine love of each other and friendship came through, right, on the screen.
Exactly.
So that's the analogy. That's the same thing that needs to be fostered. You need to make your workplace an environment where ideas and people are valued, and that everything is moving toward an understood goal for the good of the overall project.
Gotcha.
But I think it's where we feel like we're not being heard or appreciated, that we tend to start hoarding our ideas because we want credit for them.
Right. But it's, it's interesting is that, and it's scientifically researched that companies that have that growth mindset as a collective, and sharing and are unifying and supporting. I call it like a workplace jazz concept where they're like
Exactly.
together and they're playing off of each other and they're supporting each other. And then somebody leads and there's this ebb and flow that happens that they are much more productive and much
And
more
happier.
and happier and really enjoy, they really enjoy where they are. They enjoy their work. They enjoy doing what they get to do more than being in an environment where you're pitted against each other, which
Right.
kind of like backbiting, fighting, and it's a scarcity mindset compared to a growth and abundance mindset.
Exactly.
This has been a great conversation. Where can people learn more about you and find your book and your music?
Yes. The book is available on Amazon. Just type in Unpacking the Attic. It'll pop. It's right there. Or you can type in Ann Mracek, Mracek.
Okay.
That's my website. My author's website is annmracek.com. So ANNMRACEK.com. Very easy. YouTube channel is My Best Friends Live in the Woods.
That's cool.
So very easy. And I'm available in all of those places. And leave comments on the YouTube channel. Listen to the music. Talk to me. I read them. I'll answer you back. There's a contact me on my website. So yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Again, that abundant flow, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Ann, this has been an amazing conversation. I look forward to listening to your music. I'll definitely put those links in the show notes to highlight that. I know my daughter would probably love to listen to that because she's also a musician and a writer as well. And but thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insights and helping all of us understand how to unpack our own attics. And from your experience, and it's a wonderful book. It's great stories, and congratulations on all the awards.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you for all you're doing, Gerald. It's really very valuable.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
If you're enjoying the content and finding it valuable, we would appreciate it if you could take a moment and leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us and helps us reach a wider audience. If you leave us a 5-star review, it would mean the world to us. Not only does it help us improve the podcast, but it also helps us attract more sponsors and grow our community. Thank you again for your support and for listening to the Productivity Smarts podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to Productivity Smarts, where we help you achieve your goals and live your best life. We hope you've gained valuable insights and actionable strategies to boost your productivity and increase your happiness and fulfillment. Remember to apply what you've learned and keep striving towards your goals. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our podcast for more inspiring episodes and expert advice from our host, Gerald J. Leonard. Until next time, keep pushing forward and unleashing your productivity smarts.